started as a musician, a guitar player, and we always joked, even on the worst of gigs, we were living the dream. What made you turn towards management and being more on the business side of entertainment?
Quite frankly, I say this half jokingly, but I wanted to make more money than a musician can make, or at least have as much upside potential as possible. But also, I was never all that confident, at least internally, in my own abilities as a musician, and I kind of felt like I fooled all of you long enough in terms of making a living at it, and I felt thankful that I was able to play the smallest clubs to stadiums and every television show except for Saturday Night Live and David Letterman. So I kind of felt like I got away with it long enough, and quite honestly, playing it was just hard for me. Like, it was hard work, and the business stuff just tended to make more sense to me. And just there's a line in the movie Good Will Hunting where Matt Damon he's talking about all the calculus stuff or whatever that shit was on the wall, the math stuff, and he was talking about how when he looks at it, it's kind of like a piano player looking at a piano. It just makes sense. That's the way the business stuff has been for me. Things just make sense. It's not hard. It's hard work, but it's not hard. It just comes down to execution, really.
How has your being a musician, being on the road, and a tour manager helped you do what you do now?
I can literally say that I have done everything in this business except be the artist. So I've been a player, I've mixed front of house, I've mixed monitors, I've tour managed. As you know, I've driven the bus, I've sold t-shirts, I've run lights, I've been a tour accountant, I have at times run different versions of an independent label and have worked radio myself. In fact, even just 2 weeks ago, I spent 2 weeks out visiting radio just by myself playing music for them. I've literally done every single thing in the music industry other than be the artist. So I think just I don't know, what you learn along the way from all those areas and what you pick up along the way, it just gives you a better understanding of every side of it. And especially, I think for me it's valuable with my clients in that I have been on the road. A lot of managers have never been on the road. I've been on the road. I've spent a lot of time on the road. I still do. And when you understand what happens on the road, you can, and what life is like on the road, you can make some better decisions when you're in the office, as it pertains to, quite frankly, all areas of the artist's life.
Musically, I know you were a rock guy, so are most of my students. Why country? Why Nashville?
Because I hated where rock went. I grew up on 80s rock, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, U2, Zeppelin, Journey, like those were my jams, and when Nirvana came out, that ruined rock for me for a little while. And at that time, country got really cool, and a lot of the country music at that time was a lot like the rock of the 70s. So it was just kind of a natural, it was just kind of a natural home to me, really. And musically, honestly, I mean, it was a pretty good fit. That's honestly why. I did grow up around it, country music a little bit. So it wasn't completely foreign to me, but that's kind of why I gravitated toward it. Is in the early '90s, country went from hay bales and hillbillies to Garth Brooks, and Garth Brooks was the biggest and is still one of the biggest things in the world, or artists in the world. And so that brought a lot of people into the format, including me. And yeah.
We have a lot of students who are looking for a manager and wondering when to get one. What do you look for in a client? Talent, drive, work ethic, a gut feeling? When is the right time?
That's a good question. It's different for everybody. I've worked with acts that you're with them from day one before you get them a record deal, and I've also worked with acts that they had the record deal first. It's always different. These days, me personally, I just want somebody that is willing to work as hard as myself and my team is willing to work, because the business just gets harder and harder, and it kind of requires everybody to be in the trenches. And I believe just managers have to be more hands-on these days and less behind the desk. I think artists have to be more hands-on these days, and just have more of a. I think artists have to be better these days, and they have to be better artists. I think the days of just being a great singer and plugging them into a situation where here's some great songs and here's your manager and here's your label and off you go. I think fans call bullshit on that, and they know that they're not legit. And I think I think the artists just have to be better writers, better performers, more on top of their own business, better understanding of the business, simply because the economics are just not what they used to be, and there's a lot less money going around. It's still a great living. You can still do really well for yourself in the music business, but you have to do more, and because there's less money to outsource stuff and less money to, I think more and more artists are writing their records. More and more artists are producing their own records, simply just pure math. I mean, there's not a lot of money in producing anymore, so a lot of the biggest producers are doing less and less of it. So I just think that, from my standpoint, I just want somebody that wants to work, true partnership, and somebody who's going to work just as hard as I am and not be afraid to get in the trenches. And in terms of when's the right time, it's really hard to say. I mean, in a lot of ways, there's nothing to manage until there's something going on. So I think sometimes when you get a manager too early, you set expectations for yourself that things are just magically going to happen. It's just not really the way it works. So you can kind of get a bad taste in your mouth with whoever you're working with, just simply because of what your expectation of what that situation should be. And the reality of it is, it kind of takes everything happening all at once, really, before anything happens, for the most part. In terms of bigger level commercial stuff. If you're in the trenches on a regional thing, that's a whole different deal, and that's it's just a little bit different of a deal. But in terms of chart chasing, so to speak, commercial music, there's a lot more. It takes kind of all the pieces firing at the same time, and so there's acts that have an agent at William Morris and don't have a manager or a label, and great, they have an agent at William Morris, but there's nothing William Morris can do unless the label's trying to get them a hit song somewhere. They got nothing to sell. So it's just kind of that thing. It's the chicken and egg kind of thing. You kind of need it all at once, really. But it happens in a bunch of different ways.
You've worked with and been responsible for some very successful acts. Is there a rhyme or reason to who reaches the top of the charts and who doesn't?
I wish there was a rhyme or reason. If there's one thing that I've learned in my life, is that I don't have any idea what a hit song is, and I don't think that anybody else does either. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I would be on my own island right now in the Bahamas or wherever, kick back, chilling out, drinking wine. But there is no rhyme or reason. There are formulas, so to speak, in terms of, when it comes to songs, in terms of, we call it kind of in the box, especially in country music, most singles are 3 minutes to 3 minutes and 30 seconds long, and the intros are super short and the turnarounds are super short. There's some formulas, so to speak, that go into it, but for the most part, honestly, the fans tell you whether you got a hit song or not, because I've had #1 singles that have sold 200,000 downloads. I've had #1 singles that have sold 2 million. What's the difference? Who knows? It's the same amount of airplay. I've had acts that have millions and millions of followers on their Facebook page. I've had acts that had the same amount of hits, only have a couple 100,000. So there's no rhyme or reason. Like I said, and if any one of us knew, we'd all be gazillionaires by now. In terms of the song, what happened? My screen just turned off. Sorry. In terms of the song, in terms of the act, there's a lot of it I think comes down to, especially in today's world, where everybody's so ADD and you're competing. You're not just competing with other artists. You're competing with Facebook and your pictures on your phone and a bazillion TV channels, and just people have so many choices for entertainment. I think being charismatic has a lot to do with it, and connecting with people on a level that only the artist can do, and it's something you can't manufacture. It's kind of one of those things you got it or you don't. And to answer your question, there's no rhyme or reason. We try like hell every time we go out the door. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. 9 times out of 10 we fail, and you just hope that 1 time out of 10 that you win, from a business standpoint, makes up for all the rest. But there's no one person, no label, there's no amount of money that can guarantee any type of success. Otherwise, we would do it over and over and over again.
How much does an artist need to know about the business side?
These days, more than before, just because, like I said, the artists have to be more and more hands-on than they've used to be. So I think that requires, a better. Well, I think the more the artist knows about the business, and the quicker they learn, I should say, the better off they're going to be to make decisions moving down the road. And at the end of the day, a manager's job anyway is to basically oversee the business of the artist. And sometimes with that can come a lot of, what comes with that sometimes is a lot of second guessing on behalf of the artist. Like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And you try to explain to them, and sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. And even after you explain to them, they may not always necessarily agree. But if they don't know what they're talking about in the first place, how can they have an opinion? So I think you need to learn as much as you possibly can so that you can make your own decisions and about your business and your life. And I tell people all the time that a manager, a label, agent, whatever, we'll have 30, 40, 50 artists maybe in our career that we'll work with. So if it's not you, it'll be somebody else coming through the door. On the other side of that, an artist has one career, in one shot. So I think it's in their best interest to know as much as possible. The tough part with that is you can't learn everything you need to know in a book. You've got to learn by doing. You got to learn by being present, and you got to learn by failing and winning, and being in tough situations and being in not so tough situations. It's just you just need life experience that you can't get out of a book. So it's just one of those things you just have to grind. And the one difference in when I was coming up and a lot of people now is that YouTube is an amazing resource for just about anything you want to learn, whether it's music production, guitar tricks. There's tons of guitar parts I trying to learn as a kid that I never did figure out, and now you can look on YouTube and 100 other people have put their own videos on how to play different parts or different sounds or whatever. Where it would take me 6 months to figure something out. Now you can do it in 60 seconds. Same thing with production techniques for the studio and stuff. I mean, you can learn damn near anything you need to learn, want to learn on YouTube with just about any in just about any area of the business. So it's really a great resource, and it might not always be accurate, but you can kind of just like real life experiences, you can kind of go down different roads and watch different things, learn about different things, and kind of come up with your own take on things.